Welcome to Technado with Don Pizzette, featuring sysadmin expert Don Pizzette, security specialist Daniel Lowry, and Peter.
Hello and welcome to Technado with Don Pizzette. I'm your host, Peter Van Rysdam, and as you can see, if you're watching on the video version, things look a little bit different this week. We're not in our normal, lovely studio, which is just sitting there empty, unused, collecting dust right now. But we are all remote for different reasons. I'm remote for health and safety reasons, so I don't kill Daniel or anyone. But we've also got Don, Don, where are you? That looks a little different behind you.
So I'm overseas. I'm in our UK office. I came over to Dartford to be able to visit some of our friends over here at ACI Learning. They set up a just really cool set for me here, and it's got some really neat stuff like this Batman. They 3D printed that, which is awesome. So we need to get a Technado 3D printer. But otherwise, just spending some time over here this week, and really glad that I was able to remote in for the podcast instead of having to miss another week. And then I'll jump back over normal style after this.
Very cool. Yeah, I agree on that 3D printer, and I think that was verbal approval that it comes out of the Technado budget. I don't know if that's a thing that exists, but we'll give it a try. And Daniel, that looks really cool as well where you are. Where is that?
I am in Casa de Lowry at my actual home studio, dialing in today because somebody had to catch the horrible nasty bug, and I don't want that. So I appreciate you staying home, Peter. And well, thanks to modern technology, we get to do it this way and wait out the fevered dreams you're about to have and coughing hysteria.
Right. Yeah. I apologize for just making out with everybody across Europe when I was there last week. That's my mistake. They're very loving people, and yeah, I should have known better. But let's go ahead and jump in with the news because even though we're sitting at home, the news goes on. And our first article comes to us from Engadget.com. Apple's iOS 16, macOS Ventura, and watchOS 9 public betas are ready to download. The iPadOS 16 beta is out too. So these are betas. That means that, unless I'm actually signed up for them, I'm not going to see these yet until these are full release. Right, Don?
Right, yeah, you have to opt in to get these, or you can go and manually download the installation images. You know, they announced it at WWDC, and the way that Apple rolls these beta out is they start with a closed beta that only goes to people that are in the developer program. The Apple developer program, it costs, I think it's $100 or $150 a year to be a part of it. If you publish iOS apps of any sort or macOS apps, you have to be in the developer program in order to digitally sign your applications and get them in the App Store. So for those type of people, they get access to it first, and it gives them time to make sure their apps will work under the new OS. But then for the regular rank and file, if you're just a regular user or a Mac admin and you want to be able to try out the new Mac OS, you can just wait a little bit, and then they do a open beta, which is open to anybody who wants it. And that's where we're at now. If you want to try Mac OS Ventura, maybe you're a network admin and you want to make sure your MDM is going to work or whatever, you can go and sign up for the beta program with Apple for absolutely free, and you can download and install macOS Ventura and try it out on your Mac today. So just a nice way to get early access to that before your users start to see it. Now, in a truly well-managed environment, you would control when the users get updated, but as an IT admin, you're probably the one responsible for making sure that your software works, that if any training needs to be updated, you can update it, and having access to the software is a big part of that. So macOS is available as of right now.
So, I mean, this is Apple, so they're pretty experienced in this process by this point. Is this the kind of thing where, if I'm just a passionate user, it would be okay to go ahead and put on my my daily driver laptop, or since it's still a beta, do you think you would suggest you wait?
You know, for Mac OS, it's actually not that big of a deal. Usually they're very stable, very solid releases. Every now and then there'll be something like when they initially rolled out Gatekeeper, that was in the betas and it was a nightmare. Like, you didn't want to mess with it. This time around with macOS Ventura, the changes are very subtle. And so it's a pretty safe one if you want to try out the beta, or you can just wait 6 months, or not even 6 months, really. It'll be about another 3 months before we see the full version release. Well, that's only 90 days away. So if you can just wait 3 months, you don't have to mess around with betas at all. But if you're in a hurry and want to try it out, yeah, it's fairly safe to do it. Now, I wouldn't say that with iOS. That's a whole different story. Like, your phone needs to be rock solid stable, because one day you might have to dial 911 or 999 or whatever. I'm in Europe. I have to do the other number. So you have to have a stable device there. You don't want to mess around with betas on your phone. The only people who should be doing betas on the phone are people who develop apps, because they need to test them out and make sure they work before that OS comes out.
Daniel, I'm curious, is there any benefit as like a red teamer to go ahead and get into these betas and look for vulnerabilities before these are, out there for everybody?
Yeah. I mean, like you're definitely going to start to get an idea of what's coming down the line and maybe get ahead of that kind of stuff. Any steps in that direction is going to be good, but you also have to understand maybe things will change. They might go, oh, that didn't really work out the way we wanted to, so we're just going to ditch that feature altogether. And here you are trying to develop exploits for it or something to that effect. But it's always that game. So the sooner you have new information, the better, I would say. I do think it would be kind of funny to like social engineer. I don't know how Apple does their practices now that Steve's no longer with them, where, because Steve kind of dictated to the end user, this is what you want. Maybe they're taking more user input nowadays, and you get a bunch of people going, you got the minimize and the close and everything on the wrong side of the screen. Let's move it over there. And, it'd be nice if I right-clicked, if there was an option to delete and not move to trash, and then just basically change the whole operating system to look more conformed with other operating systems. That would be kind of funny and cool, just as a troll hack. If people did that, it'd be fun.
You say Steve, you're talking about Steve Bannon?
Steve Bannon.
All right, let's take a look at our next article, which comes to us from appleinsider.com. Storage firm Drobo has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. I don't know why that's on the Apple Insider, but so is this something that would be, if I have a Drobo in my production environment, I should be worried about, Don?
Maybe a little bit. There's some positives and negatives to this whole situation. And the reason it's on Apple Insider is that Drobos were wildly popular amongst designers, people that were like graphics designers or video editors that needed quick and easy storage on their device. Drobo was one of the first companies to release a low-cost Thunderbolt storage appliance. So just a box that could hold 5 hard drives, Thunderbolt right into your Mac or just USB into your regular PC, and you quickly gain access to storage. They made really smart ones that were direct network attached, that you ran services, like you could run Plex right off of a Drobo. There were other ones that would just plug directly into a computer, though. So it wasn't even network attached storage. It was just directly attached to a system. Now, the negative is you got a company going bankrupt. That's generally not a good sign. So if you're expecting to get updates and support, if you're expecting to see new research and development happening, that's likely not going to happen at Drobo right now, because they're broke, right? But on a positive sign, Chapter 11 is what's called a restructuring. And that means, hey, we're not going out of business. We just have a lot of debt we can't pay. So they want to restructure how they pay their debt, get the company back to being normal and functional again, and then continue on. So if you've got a Drobo right now, it's probably not anything to worry about, but keep an eye out and make sure updates are still being released. If you're buying a new storage appliance, you'll probably want to steer clear of Drobo, which is actually easy to do right now, because if you go to their store page, it's still online, but all of the inventory shows is out of stock. So, that makes it where they're probably not getting a lot of new customers right now.
That could be why they don't have any money. They're not selling anything. Yeah. So is there any opportunity, Don? Well, yeah, that's supply and demand. Is there any opportunity with this where, like, I could pick these up for cheap now and use them for something else? Are they, just big devices that I could reformat and turn into, a different kind of storage appliance?
On their fancier devices, the ones that are network attached, they have ARM processors and they run a variant of Linux. And so assuming you could get like administrative controls, which I bet Daniel could do in a heartbeat, but if you can get root access into it, you probably could take it over and turn it into your own system. If it was just raw flat storage, probably would work out well. But if you're wanting to take advantage of the fancier features, like they had RAID 6 support and data deduplication and all that, for that you'll want the Drobo software, and that's what you'll lose access to if the company just folds.
Have you ever played with these at all, Daniel, in terms of trying to get in or seen any vulnerabilities there?
No, I've never tried to get into one of them, other than the fact that like Tim has one that his Plex server's connected to. I can't get into that thing. It's the most secure stuff. I couldn't play video on it if it meant my life, honestly. So my experience with them has been, so this doesn't work. That's fun. Moving on.
So you're one of the people just spitting on their grave and saying, good
yeah, good riddance.
Yeah, that works. All right. Well, let's move on and maybe we'll hear more because, as you said, Don, it's a restructuring. So, they could reemerge from this if they're able to kind of get things in order, or maybe it's the kind of thing where they're primed for acquisition then and someone else picks them up and adds them to their portfolio and helps them out. Our next article, though, comes to us from /dot.org. NIST announces first 4 quantum-resistant cryptographic algorithms. All right, so quantum is normally a good thing, or they try to, if you put the word quantum on it, it means it's great. But what do we mean quantum resistant in this case?
So quantum resistant means that the encryption algorithm is so complex that even a quantum computer would struggle to be able to decode it. So the problem with the encryption suites that we use right now is that they're very strong for a regular computer. It takes thousands of years in some cases to be able to break the ciphers that we have set up. But on a quantum computer, that thousands of years may become a matter of days or even minutes. And I think we talked about that just a week or two ago here on the podcast. Well, these new encryption standards are designed to help overcome that. So we don't have to worry so much about quantum computing. We have to worry about whatever the next thing is. So they picked 4 protocols, which I thought was pretty odd. So I looked into what was going on here. When it comes to standard encryption, they've picked a protocol called Crystal's Kyber. So the Kyber algorithm is what most people refer it to. And that's just designed for general encryption. But then on the digital signature side, so on the hashing side, they picked 2 primary and a backup. So there's the Crystal's dilithium, which is designed for long, high-strength keys. There's the Falcon cipher, which is designed for short keys, if you just need like really simple digital signatures without anything too complex. But then they picked a third one called Sphinx Plus, SPHINCS, and then the plus sign. And this one is a backup. And I thought that was really weird, so I did a little research to find out why they needed a backup. And it turns out there is a whole slew of controversy around all of the digital signature protocols they picked around dilithium, Falcon, and Sphinx. And so with dilithium and Falcon, enough people complained that they felt the need to line up a backup already, like preemptively. Hey, our front runners are great, but just in case something goes south in the next few years, we've already approved Sphinx to be able to step in. So there it is. You've got 4 new protocols that you're going to start seeing supported. If you support VPN hardware or set up any kind of disk encryption or other things, you'll start to see these protocols being supported in the near future.
Daniel, any thoughts?
It is interesting to see how fast how quantum computing isn't really like out yet. You know what I mean? It's not like a widely available thing. So the fact that they're already trying to get ahead of the curve when it comes to developing cryptographic algorithms that will be resistant to that level of performance is kind of cool. Also, it's like I'm assuming that's just for current, but how fast they came out with that was what boggles my mind. It's like, okay, we've got a few quantum systems that are out there that can do quantum computing as like a real thing, and now we've got algorithms ready for that. I wonder how long those will last, because quantum computing is kind of an interesting subject and it's continuing to develop. Will those be robust against newer quantum computing systems that will happen within the next 5 to 10 years? And do they have algorithms to replace those algorithms? And how do we do that? How do you make something so robust that even quantum computer? Do you require quantum computers to even use that type of cryptographic system so that it can encrypt and decrypt in a manner that's usable? It's just a lot of questions around that because it's such a new technology.
Well, I have none of the answers for you, Daniel, but I will say that I feel like quantum is like 5G. It's one of those terms where
Gives you cancer.
people are maybe using it in, yeah, exactly. Where people are maybe using it incorrectly, and you're saying it's not really out yet, but you can buy all kinds of quantum stuff. So I think the definition of like what is this actually, what actually qualifies as quantum computing in these cases. So I don't know.
I heard that quantum computers cause syphilis. Fact.
I believe, yeah, that is true. That was.
Is that a personal attestation, Don?
Is that what you're telling your wife? No,
Yeah,
it's the quantum
that's
computer.
Don's anecdotal evidence. No, it's the quantum computing, honey.
Yeah,
It's not me.
I used the quantum computer down by the docks.
Yeah.
All right. We should move on before we get into too much trouble here to our next article, which is from theblock.co. And this one honestly read like a true crime, podcast. How a fake job offer took down the world's most popular crypto game, which I'm so out of the loop. I didn't even know there were crypto games, but apparently there's this game that you could be playing and actually earning cryptocurrency and NFTs, which is just awesome. It's like the digital version of the claw game, but instead of getting a worthless stuffed animal, you're getting a worthless NFT. But Don, you want to kind of walk us through, I think this was the North Korean group Lazarus, right? That kind of got in there and shook some things up.
Yes, and don't feel bad about having not heard of this crypto game. Crypto games like these are popular in Asia, not so much outside of Asia. And the reason is this is a somewhat kind of shady world. Here in the U.S., we have, or I'm not even in the U.S. right now. So when I'm in the U.S., we have things like internet cafes. And the internet cafes are like thinly disguised online gambling dens to get around gambling laws. That's really all they are. And in a way, that's how these crypto games are, is that you can go and you can play, and people pay for access to be able to go in and play, and then potentially generate some cryptocurrency as they do it. And that cryptocurrency may be worth more than what they paid. So it is sort of like gambling in a way, but it is wildly popular in Southeast Asia. So there are some people who actually quit their day jobs and they just play these crypto games and make money. The one that's being talked about in the article is called Axie Infinity, and it was probably the most popular of the crypto games. I say was because hackers managed to get in and drain $540 million of cryptocurrency out of the platform, effectively destroying it, and now it's completely fallen. So they really, I don't think they're shut down yet, but they're just completely devalued. Now, what I thought was really exciting about this, because I don't normally give two craps about crypto and what's going on there, but in this case, they gave us the background on how it happened. Now, I assumed that this was either a hacker taking advantage of the way that it's doing its mining algorithms or something like that. Turned out this was social engineering, and the social engineering was so creative that I thought we should talk about it here, which is the hackers created a fake company. And the fake company posted job postings for crypto developers. And they made sure the advertisements got viewed by some of the developers that work for Axie Infinity. One of the developers applied for the job and then went through a series of interviews. Like, they actually interviewed this person. And in the interview, they were giving them tests, to make sure that they knew what they were doing and so on. And then at the end of the process, they sent them a job offer. And the job offer was in a PDF file as an attachment to an email. And when the developer opened up that attachment, it carried a malicious payload that infected their machine, and that gave the attackers access, gave them full control of that developer's machine. So once they had that, they had access to the code of Axie Infinity in the back end, and they were able to just run rampant in there. But I thought, man, what a long game they played on that, right? Create a fake company, post fake jobs, do interviews, and then all leading up to sending an infected PDF to somebody. They could have skipped all that and just randomly sent an infected PDF, but then the person wouldn't have opened it. They basically guaranteed the person was going to open it. So pretty amazing amount of dedication for the criminals on this one.
Yeah, I mean, the company said that their engineers are spearphished all the time because of where they work. So I think maybe they're a little more in tune to not open just a random thing that got sent to them, but the fact that they opened this PDF. I mean, the fact that they opened that on their work computer is kind of weird. If you're getting a new job offer, you think you maybe would do that at home. But I wondered too, how much possible social engineering they did during those several rounds of interviews. They could maybe, tell us about challenges you face at work right now. What are some weird setups that you have to deal with, or things like that maybe helped them once they got in to actually get in further, or spread out more quickly. But Daniel, what do you think about all this?
Oh yeah, they obviously, yeah, it makes me think of like, oh, the Lazarus boys are at it again, and boss hogs and NFTs have been taken hostage by these horrible people. And it definitely would have taken quite a bit of setup and trying to figure out what technologies that they're using. They probably knew some of them through various and sundry means to try to create an appealing looking job, and then to make sure that it gets put into the standard haunts that these developers are kind of hanging out in, so that they get eyes on the fact that there is a job opening. Otherwise, they kind of have to be a little pushy, like, hey, we know you kind of work in this space and we'd love to have you above, at least to have a conversation, and then to go through the multiple rounds of interviewing to put people through that so that they feel like everything about this is legit. What I kind of question though is like, was their goal to have money or to devalue money? I mean, like, I guess the NFT, are you trying to devalue that company or the NFTs or both? Because that was the effective, right? Like Don said, all this stuff has been completely devalued because of what has happened. So they did all that work for what? What was the purpose?
Well, if they were able to get it out and cash it in quickly, before that fall. But my understanding is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Don, but they were able to get in and get access to 4 of the 9 validators that basically are saying, or you need more than half to approve things on the blockchain. And then they came another way to get that 5th one to have a majority. But by having that, they were able to kind of go ahead and approve these transactions and just funnel this money out. Is that right?
Yeah, they were able to seize control of enough systems to pull off a 51% attack, right? And that's a challenge we have with blockchain, is that if anyone ever gains control of 51% of the validators or miners or whatever it is that's actually doing the ledger entries, then they can approve whatever changes they want. They can drain all of the money out and say, yep, that's legitimate, and green light it. And that's what the hackers did. They got control of enough systems.
Yeah, it's a really cool read, and interesting, like you said, Don, that they actually took the time to admit what happened and really get into detail, as probably a cautionary tale for the next people. So one I would definitely check out, and if it's something that could affect you, maybe take some steps. Tell your employees, take those job offers at home. You don't have to take them here at the office and compromise all of our systems. But let's go ahead and take a quick break. We've got a little bit more news to get to, a couple of crazy articles. We're going to find out who got pwned. We're going to do that all right after this here on Technado with Don Pizzette.
Welcome to IT Pro TV, an e-learning company with thousands of hours of engaging video training for IT professionals, with fresh content added daily. What makes IT Pro TV stand out? It all starts with our edutainers, who create better than classroom experiences for training you look forward to watching.
So an edutainer is someone who takes a topic, an educational topic, and makes it more fun, enjoyable. My vision for IT Pro TV was to make the product that I wish I had when I got started.
The dashboard is great because you can actually pick up right where you left off. You can also end up seeing new courses that are available to you, and with a membership, you have access to a variety of study tools.
Follow along with virtual labs and test your skills with practice tests. And unlike traditional training, you aren't handcuffed to your desk. Sure, you can watch from there or from your couch with Apple TV and Roku apps, or from anywhere with mobile apps. The training is even available for download. If you're ready to watch and learn with the IT pros, check out the flexible membership choices online today at www.itpro.tv.
All right, welcome back to Technado with Don Pizzette. Some more fun articles to get to. Well, not fun if you have personal information that you like keeping. but fun from our perspective as outsiders looking in. And this next article is actually going to help us find out who got pwned.
Looks like you're about to get pwned.
Fatality.
Yeah!
I thought we had two Daniels up on the screen for a second there, but no, that's just
I am built like a thumb, aren't I?
burn. All right. Well, this one comes to us from TechCrunch.com. Hotel giant Marriott confirms yet another breach. So I don't remember the last one, but Don, do you remember what happened last time? And was this the same thing again?
This was a little different. The last time if I recall correctly, in the last data breach, attackers were able to gain access to central systems at Marriott and even spread out to infect some branch systems at the time. This one's a little bit different because what happened here is an attacker was able to social engineer an employee at a Marriott resort or at a hotel. So not at the corporate central office anymore. Now this is actually at one of the hotels. And the social engineer was able to convince the employee to give them remote access to their machine. And so the attacker was able to basically pull up the full screen and run rampant with the computer. And in that time, the attacker was able to lift about 20 gigabytes of sensitive data. So they just sat there scraping data out of the system because they had access to an actual terminal. Now, Marriott has been quick to tell everybody, hey, it's not so bad. They didn't get access to our central system. Well, they didn't need access to the central system. They were able to pull it all from the hotel management app right there on that remote console, and they pulled a ton of information. So Marriott is going through the public relations kind of aspect of damage control right now as they're trying to tell everybody it's okay. But the reality is, this just shows how difficult it is to secure a network. They put a lot of stuff in place since their last breach to try and prevent it, but in any security solution, the end user is your weakest point. So in this case, an end user allowed an attacker to get remote access to a machine that was already authenticated, already had legitimate access to the hotel management software, and the attackers ran with it.
So when we say it had access to the hotel management software, does that mean that they were able to gather more than just information about the people that had stayed at that specific property, but they were able to kind of, reach into Marriott's database and find out more about other people as well?
You know, Marriott obviously has not shared details like that because they don't want us to know that. But I think that it would be pretty unusual for them not to have that access, right? Like, because of rewards points and I forget what Marriott's is called, like the Hilton Honors type thing, you have Marriott rewards. So I'm pretty certain, like, if you book something at one hotel branch, that they can see your stays at other branches because that's how the reward system works. So, I mean, unless Marriott's done a really good job of separating that out and making it where it's queryable with less information, which I seriously doubt they have. So in this scenario, it does seem like they're able to access quite a bit.
Daniel, this makes me kind of think of something we've talked about before, of like the least privilege, kind of thing. Like, is there a reason that, we give that much access to the minimum wage person behind the desk at 3 a.m.? Do they need that access? Is there something that Marriott should be doing differently, do you think?
Yeah, whether or not those people need that kind of access, you'd have to have some insight into what Marriott is doing and what that person's role is. A lot of access is based on the individual's role. And kind of probably to Don's point, there's some necessary insight into I want to say users, but members, people that come in that use Marriott as a system. They have some sort of rewards. I hear they're using NFTs now, so I'm sure that's going to be a good move. No, I'm kidding. They're not.
Instead of a room key, you get an NFT.
Yeah, you have an NFT. You show a bored ape to your door and it opens up.
The big question is, Don, where are you staying in London?
I'm actually at a Hilton. That's why I knew the name of the rewards program.
Oh, I thought you were at a dumpster behind the, Buc-ee's or whatever.
Yeah, you're trying to think of a British brand real quick. Yeah, the Asda.
Yeah, I don't know any British brands, so I just threw out a good American one.
Behind the Tesco. You're behind the Tesco.
Yeah.
I'm at the Altoids factory. That's the only thing everybody knows.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, they made there? I didn't know that. You see, it's not something everybody knows. Because there are idiots like me who do not. All right. Well, speaking of idiots, let's find out who this week is behind bars.
Break the law and you'll go to jail.
Do they have cops in the UK, Don? Have you been watching?
Don't they have a different name for them? Constables or something, right? Is it?
Constable,
Might
that
have
just
asked
doesn't
somebody here
roll
in
off
the
the
building.
tongue. Like,
I would watch a British version of Cops. I think that would be entertaining.
yeah, it's very polite. That's all I know. Excuse me, sir.
No, that would be like the RCMP.
Oh, it's true. Yeah, Mounties.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's.
Do you
take a
mind
look
getting
at
in the
this one.
call?
Yeah. I'm sorry for inconveniencing you all. This one is from the Justice Department of the United States, justice.gov. CEO of dozens of companies and entities charged in scheme to traffic an estimated $1 billion in fraudulent and counterfeit Cisco networking equipment. So that's like what, like 2 routers, I believe?
Yeah. So this is a really interesting one because I've heard a number of people over the years report getting fraudulent or counterfeit devices specifically out of Miami. And I don't know if that was all tied to this guy, but I don't think it's a coincidence that these are tied together. They basically had this one guy who had dozens of front companies, companies like Pro Network LLC, Easy Network, 1701 Doral, just all sorts of weird names for these companies. And every one of them was merely a false front selling either stolen or counterfeit hardware. Now, if you work with Cisco equipment, Juniper, Palo Alto, all these different companies, their equipment is expensive, right? And so you might go to CDW and find a Cisco ASA for $5,000. But then you go on eBay and you find people selling used ones for $1,200 or $1,000, like way lower cost. That's the secondary market. And so a lot of people will buy their hardware on that secondary market. The challenge there is sometimes you can get a great deal. Sometimes you can just get some equipment that was used for a year or two and you save a ton of money. But other times you're buying equipment that is fake, that's counterfeit, that's not going to last as long as it normally would, that's not going to have any kind of warranty or support coverage, that's counterfeit. And I've seen a few of these devices myself over the years. I've seen some Cisco routers that were really convincing. I mean, they looked exactly like a Cisco router, and they even ran the iOS on them. So it was like a full, complete replacement, a full counterfeit of that equipment. But I've also seen other devices where it looked like a Cisco router, but it was actually just running OpenWRT on the inside. So it wasn't even running Cisco's iOS. It just looked like a Cisco router. So counterfeit equipment like that is out there, and it sounds like a lot of it has actually been coming through this guy's companies. And so he's been indicted. So he's actually not behind bars just yet, but the odds of him dodging this one are extremely low because he has sold tons and tons of equipment, some of it to government agencies also. So that's going to move this one into federal courts, and he's going to end up in some pretty big trouble there. They hit him with a search warrant and found 1,156 counterfeit Cisco devices. And that's just devices he had, not even counting the ones that he had already sold. So this guy was pretty high volume.
When you say he sold to government entities, does that mean that they were buying on the secondary market, or was he trying to pass these things off as new as well?
Oh, he was passing some off as new. Yeah, it was a mixture of both. Most of the stuff, I don't think government agencies are allowed to buy on the secondary market because I think you have to be GSA scheduled and all that other stuff to be able to sell directly to the government that way. But he has a couple of what were kind of advertised as legitimate storefronts with some of his different companies. And some were based out of, well, a lot of were based out of Florida. Some were based out of New Jersey. So he had a few different identities that were all just trying to pass off this equipment. And he's been very actively doing this since 2014. So some of his business names have been registered for quite some time. It's really prolific.
So I don't know if this is Don or Daniel, but what can I do as a, just an admin at my own company that needs to go out and buy something? What can I do to verify that it is real. If I'm trying to maybe get a deal and not buy directly from Cisco, is there anything that I can do, or is that the only thing to go right to the horse's mouth?
Daniel, you want to field this one?
I mean, obviously, I think the answer to that is pretty apparent. Is you go straight from either the source or some sort of certified vendor. Otherwise, you're rolling the dice. You can get pretty familiar with what the actual. I've seen counterfeit stuff from China before, and when you compare it to the actual thing that it's trying to counterfeit, there's usually some telltale signs that the counterfeit is exactly that, a counterfeit. So you have to be really adept at knowing what the real thing looks like so that you can spot those counterfeits if you're going to go down that road. But it's just not, the problem is that there's always going to be those people out there that are trying to save a buck. They just don't have the budget, but they need the device. And that becomes a real temptation to go onto that secondary market and try to find the cheapest thing possible. And therefore, people are going to fall victim to this. So you have to just say that risk is not worth the potential reward, because of obviously we could get something completely, have backdoors in it and all that other kind of stuff. You have to be really careful when you're buying on the secondary market. Maybe flash the iOS and see if it takes your real iOS. If you have copies of that, if you're trying to replace some sort of device, Don, you'd be able to speak to that a little more than I would. Because you've worked in that space a whole lot more. But buying on that secondary market is definitely a risky business, and you have to really weigh the potential risk that is going to befall you if you do that. So I personally would probably just go, I guess we need to save our pennies a little bit more and cut some corners so that we can get something we know is going to be legitimate.
I've bought a lot of routers and firewalls on the secondary market, mostly for my personal labs, because I have to learn equipment and how things work. So I'll buy it that way to save some money. There's two things that I usually do when I buy used equipment. One is, once I have the serial number in hand, which sometimes the seller will give you the serial number ahead of time, sometimes they don't. But once I have the serial number, I'll call the vendor. I'll call Cisco, Juniper, whoever, and just get them to check the number. You can call up and ask them to do a warranty check. It's usually not going to be under warranty, but that'll let them give a chance to look it up and tell you whether that's a legit serial number. Sometimes you'll find out the equipment is stolen. I've found that out before. Other times you may find that it's just not a valid serial number at all, that it doesn't match up. So that's one thing. The other thing is you need to open up the case. You need to take it apart and look inside, because it could be that it is a completely legitimate router or firewall, but an attacker could easily solder on additional equipment to it. So if you open it up and you see a Raspberry Pi W, or some really small board that's been soldered on, that's a pretty big indicator that you're about to bring in a tainted supply chain, right? You don't want some device that already has malicious hardware attached and then bring that into like a production environment. That would be madness. So a visual inspection is a pretty good idea.
Yeah, that's kind of where my head was going too, that if this guy's already a criminal, what's to stop him from setting up a secondary way to make money with, putting backdoors or something in these devices? So definitely something to look out for. But I think the biggest thing you can do is make sure you don't buy from someone in Florida. And if you do, and this person has a second location, I mean, New Jersey, that's like, North Florida. So, if you're going to steer away from any states, I think it would be those two when buying equipment. Does that sound right?
I got a deal on firewalls. This one, it fell off the truck. I'll sell it to you cheap.
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly.
Yeah. You just gotta, right? It's always, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And I think we've learned a few things from the last few articles, is that the most successful hacks are based on lies. They just lie their way in.
Exactly. All right. Well, speaking of too good to be true, there's the dog, the mail's here or something. That's exciting. But
that's
there's
a sign that we're out of time.
Exactly. There's also a webinar coming up, which just sounds too good to be true. Yeah, that's the sound of the dog. That means time for our lightning round. All right, we've got all things cybersecurity with Daniel and Heath Adams. And Daniel, who is Heath?
Heath is the CEO and founder of TCM Security, also known as the Cyber Mentor. He's got a large following. He's one of those people that you see kind of like live the cybersecurity dream, where he worked his way up. He was an accountant at one point, and then he jumped into cybersecurity through help desk, through sysadmin, network admin, and he just kept trying to put himself in the right position because he liked security and was interested in it, and moved his way into a pen testing job, which he then quit and started his own company, which is TCM. And now they have training. They have their own certification called the Practical Network Penetration Tester, or PNPT certification. It's really hot. A lot of people are really enjoying it. I've actually signed up for it myself. I want to go through their training and take a look at how they're doing that, because they're also active penetration testers. They provide that as a service as well. So it's a really cool security firm that Heath has kind of built up. He's got a really cool model when it comes to business and just trying to get people the information and the knowledge that they need so that they can become successful pen testers and live their own dreams. So it's really cool that we're going to have him on, get to pick his brain about stuff and just chat security and stuff that he sees. It'll be a lot of fun.
Nice. And yeah, people are loving these All Things Cybersecurity series, which if you haven't seen them yet, it's a little different than our other webinars in that there's no set topic. We just come in and we're taking questions from the audience right away. So, it's really more of a roundtable and a discussion. And that one takes place on Thursday, July 21st, 2 p.m. Eastern time. So head over to itpro.tv/webinars and you can register for that one. You can also see the past episodes. We've had Zach Hill on recently, John Hammond, and we've got a lot more of these planned for the future. So check those out at itpro.tv/webinars. And also, while you're on that internet, head over to technado.com and you can check out all the latest episodes there. You can get some swag. You can meet the team behind the team as well. You can contact us and tell us what we've said wrong or all the things that we've said right. Help us define quantum computing, maybe, I don't know. But in the upper right-hand corner, there's a big orange button that says sponsored by IT Pro TV. Go ahead and click that and get 30% off the lifetime of your IT Pro TV membership with that coupon code. And you can also request a team trial. So if you're part of a business and a team and want to find out the great features available to teams, you can do that there as well. That's all over at technado.com. So check that out. And all right, Don, are we going to have you back in the States next week, or are you over there a little bit longer?
I'll be back in the States next week.
As long as your flight's not canceled, because it seems to be happening a lot. I just jinxed it. I'm sorry. That's my mistake. And Daniel, we'll get you back in the office then. Hopefully, I'm alive and I will come in as well, and that will be fun. And so thank you guys all for joining us, and thank you to the production team today for rallying behind this change and getting all of us together in one place. But thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next week right here on Technado with Don Pizzette.